Keir Starmer has been humiliated by Donald Trump yet again. Tensions between the US and the UK have escalated as the world is now realising that Donald Trump was not joking about his wide-ranging tariffs. Keir Starmer reportedly begged Donald Trump for tariff exemptions for the UK, only to be brutally rejected because Trump took issue with the lack of freedom of speech in the UK. And despite how adamant Keir Starmer is that the UK has freedom of speech, the Trump administration is not buying it.
Which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
This commentator repeated the line of the Trump administration, saying Donald Trump rejects Keir Starmer's call and sends him a warning. No free speech, no free trade. And when confronted about the looming tariffs, Keir Starmer looked dejected, saying they will probably come into effect despite his best efforts to negotiate a deal with Trump.
People are going to be worse off when Trump's tariffs come into effect, won't they? That's the truth, and that's what you're dealing with.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see tariffs.
But you acknowledge we are going to get them.
Well, look, we're working hard on an economic deal, which we've made rapid progress on, and I hope we can make really speedy resolutions on. But look, the likelihood is there will be tariffs. Nobody welcomes that. We're obviously working with the sectors most impacted at pace on that. Nobody wants to see a trade war, but I have to act in the national interest. And that means that all options have to remain on the table.
No trade war.
And that is really bad news for Starmer, who desperately needs the UK to remain tariff-free so he maintains his fiscal headroom.
His softly tactics will work, frankly, because he needs them to. The government is walking a very narrow economic tightrope. Last week, Labour made the painful decision to cut benefits in order to preserve that headroom needed to keep within the fiscal rules. But just listen to what the budget watchdog said earlier today, what tariffs could do to that all-important headroom.
If tariffs at 20-25% were put on the UK and maintained for 5 years, our assessment of what that does is that it will knock out all the headroom that the government currently has.
Not just some of the headroom.
The tariff tensions escalated recently after the US State Department made a rare intervention, releasing a statement voicing its concern for freedom of expression in the United Kingdom. The catalyst for this was the prosecution of 64-year-old anti-abortion campaigner Livia Tosi-Bolt, who was charged with breaching a public spaces protection order for holding a sign outside an abortion clinic that read, "Here to talk if you want." After a US official met with Tosi-Bolt, the US State Department released a statement saying, US-UK relations share a mutual respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. However, as Vice President Vance has said, we are concerned about freedom of expression in the United Kingdom. It is important that the UK respect and protect freedom of expression. And it seems the US are speaking on behalf of many UK citizens who are fed up with their overly controlling leader.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump! Mr. President, if you are seeing this, just know that...
Online commentators agreed with the sentiment, with this person saying, "I agree. The United States is a beacon in the world at the moment, especially for those of us living in Starmer's atrocious socialist Britain." And Reform UK's leader Nigel Farage agrees, slamming Keir Starmer for his push against freedom of speech.
And what about Elon Musk?
Elon. Well,
and the closeness, that Alice described, the potential, the conflict of interest.
Yeah, he's very interested in British politics.
Why is he so interested?
The reason he trolls Keir Starmer is because Elon believes in free speech, and Keir Starmer locks people up who say nasty things on Facebook.
Jackie, do you just want to answer that?
No, he doesn't.
No. Well, the justice system does. We've got two-tier care, we've got two-tier policing, and two-tier justice.
I'm sorry.
And that's where we are. No, it's awful.
You've done quite well, Nigel, and now you've reverted to sloganising and performative politics.
When the attackers at Manchester Airport don't actually face any charges, and people who write horrible things on Facebook go to prison, something is very wrong.
But hang on, the Prime Minister doesn't decide who goes to prison, who doesn't.
No, but he can speak out and say something, and he ought to.
I'll tell you. So, I think what the Prime Minister should be focusing on.
But it seems Donald Trump is treating this like a big joke, mocking Keir Starmer's attempts to negotiate with him on tariffs.
Thank you. Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried.